Hello, my name is Sheldon Net, and I graduated in the class of 1980 from Catholic University Law School. I was in the one and only CCLS clinic at the time, and I guess it would be a general practice clinic, and we were located on North Capitol Street. I remember there was a client who lived in a multi-unit apartment building, and the boiler was not working, and the landlord wasn't doing anything about it, and it was wintertime, and so she had no heat in her apartment. And I remember having a strategy session with my fellow law students, and we actually pulled an all-nighter in the dining room of my house that I was renting. We were all around the dining room table preparing pleadings to take the landlord to court and to force his hand to provide heat. And then I remember, I think it was the next day, having gotten no sleep, we had somehow gotten a repair person to come to the building, and here we were, the law students ourselves, in the boiler room with the repair guy, getting our hands dirty, trying to figure out what would be done to fix the boiler. And this guy was willing to repair the boiler and worry about how he was going to get paid later. And it was an experience where it wasn't just about being a lawyer in a courtroom, but hands-on getting results for this woman who needed heat in her apartment. Working on North Capitol Street was wonderful. It was teeming with activity. It was always a bustle and a hustle-bustle inside the offices. When the weather was nice and we would be in the upstairs offices with the windows open, and you could hear the sounds of the city and you could feel the pulse of the city, and you knew that you were where the people were and where they needed to be, where you needed to be, so they could come to you and right off the street and be able to see a student attorney right off the bat. It was a wonderful experience, and it brought the whole law school experience to life for me.
Hi, my name is Sarah Copell. I graduated from Catholic University in 2008, and I was in clinic for 3 semesters beginning in 2007, Families in the Law Clinic. I think my fondest memories, well, I have a lot of fond memories, but one of the things that impacted me the most were the community outreach programs. I so enjoyed working at the Family Court Self-Help Center and working at the hotel and running the evening clinics that we held conjunctively with Weave. The satisfaction, the immediate satisfaction that I would experience from helping so many people in one day, and the practical experience of working on so many relevant issues in one day was extremely rewarding, and it allowed me to see how affected our community is by the issues that we were dealing with in clinic, and it made me realize that I needed to give back in my practice as an attorney. I'm extremely grateful for the clinic experience. It's something I would never trade. The mentors I have and have had and the friendships that I've established. I hope to always be involved with clinic.
Hi, my name is Jackie Mathis Hall, class of '04 from Catholic University. I was in the clinic for 2 years in roughly 2002 and 2003, and I did the advocacy for the elderly clinic, and it was a just phenomenal experience under Mike McGonigal, and his word of advice at the time was, would you ever go to a surgeon who had not practiced surgery? Why would you go to a lawyer who had not had practical legal experience with real-life clients? And I take that to heart. I think one of my fondest memories of the clinic, and one of the things that it helped me later in life, was a case that I was working on with a lady who had basically been wronged by a contractor. And so we had to come up with enough proof to show and basically tell our story and paint a picture in court as to how she had been wronged. And we were extremely prepared. That's one thing the clinic instilled in us. And we actually went out to her house, met with her, got some great photographs we were able to submit as evidence in the court. and really put a compelling case together. And without disclosing too many details, long story short, we were able to win. It was an ex parte proof hearing. The other side didn't show up, but we were able to get a little over $100,000 worth of damages for our client, and they were included treble damages plus attorney's fees. So it felt very good to have such a victory for a client who really had been, like I said, wronged by another person. And we took away from that, always be prepared, know your client, know your case, know what the other side is going to say, and even knowing little details about what to say in court. Court's indulgence, may I approach, and just, have a little script if you need ready. But just always be prepared so you serve your client well.
My name is Lloyd Faulkner Scott. I graduated at Columbus School of Law in May 2010. I attended the Advocacy for the Elderly program. I worked in the clinic there under the supervision of Professor Michael McGonigal. The one thing I took from the clinic was an overarching theme in life: pay attention to detail and be very, very prepared. I worked on an elderly case. The lady was 71 years old, had a very compelling story. In order to help her, we had to grow our client to the point of getting even things that she didn't think were very important. Once we did that, we were able to take on an insurance company that was very big and strong in our area, who was represented by a guy who had worked on insurance litigation for 38 years. It was our preparation, our awareness of the facts, our paying attention to detail that allowed us to eventually get her a settlement that was 75% of what we were going to trial for. So at the end of the day, pay attention to detail. Always know that your client may not necessarily tell you all that's important or all the facts, not necessarily because he or she is lying, but because he or she doesn't believe some of the left out details are important. It is your duty as an attorney, as an advocate, to get those things out and prepare for your client and prepare your client for trial. And that's what I learned.
My name is Michael Eddings. I spent my time in the clinic in years 2000, 2001. The clinic had a tremendous impact on me and my practice. One of the things that it did for me is it gave me real-world practical experience. It taught me that I love litigation. Immediately after graduating, I became a litigator. I did civil litigation, plaintiff work, and also did real estate litigation and continue to do that now. I think the thing that most appeals to me is giving back to the community, helping the community, and that sense of community service is still with me now. I try to do much pro bono work, and I also try to serve on a lot of nonprofit boards that helps people in the community, particularly indigent population. So without the clinical experience, I think my practice life would be less rewarding. Incorporating work as well as community volunteer and community service has really made my practice a very rich and rewarding practice, and I'm grateful for that.
I'm Chris Wallace. I was in the clinic in about 2008 or 2009, both those years. And I was in the Families in the Law Clinic, and currently just graduated and looking probably to start my own firm. I'd like to do a lot of juvenile family law type stuff. The clinic meant a lot to me. It was probably one of my most memorable experiences in law school. It gave me a foundation to feel like, one, I could go and start a law firm right out of school, and it gave me a good perspective on what it takes to be a good attorney, because I could see what the other counsel would sometimes do, whether they were prepared well or not, and then just having a supervisor that was continually rigorous about how we wrote, how much effort and time we put into our work, really impacted me a lot and made me understand what the standard needs to be to adequately represent people that need, oftentimes that are in positions that can't represent themselves. Probably my most memorable story is just working late nights with my partner, and her having to drive me last minute to catch the last metro to get home to I lived in Northern Virginia at the time, and just putting that effort in and then coming out of it at the hearings or in the settlement talks and just feeling the reward of all that work. And probably the most touching thing to me was a year after I'd been in the clinic, I got a little note in my mailbox, in my university mailbox. I went and got it, and it was a letter that had been mailed to the clinic, and they just stuck it in there. And it was from a former client that we helped get her VAWA petition approved. And it just meant a lot to me that, you know, she did that, and it made me realize that the work I was doing was making an impact. So that's what the clinic means to me.
I'm Allison Hill, and I was in the Families in the Law Clinic in 2002 and 2003. And I have a really funny story. The first time I ever got up in front of any court in any jurisdiction, I was at DC Superior with Professor Berry, and I stood up to introduce myself and could not make sound come out. So I get up and I say, "Good morning, Your Honor." And then the whole court laughs at me. And then the courtroom clerk, she leans over into her microphone and she says, "Hon, you're going to have to speak up because we don't have court reporters. You have to speak loud enough that we can get you on the microphone." And so it was, I wasn't sure if I could do it, but I looked over at Professor Berry and she kind of goes, "You can do it." And then I did, and I proceeded to have a good hearing and a good outcome, and everything was okay, but it has always stuck with me. And so I always remember that as the funniest thing that happened to me in clinic.
Hi, this is Jerome Woods. I am from the class of 1997, and I was in the general practice clinic in 1996 and 1997. I don't have a memorable story because I have many memorable stories, but what I would say is that when I started the clinic, there was a television show on, and it was called Fame, and we would see the show in reruns. Debbie Allen would always begin by saying, "If you want fame, then fame costs, and right here is where you start paying." Well, when it comes to the clinic, I don't know how famous we all became, but we sure did learn how to make a difference, and it started right here. So if you want to learn how to make a difference in the community, to really learn how to advocate on behalf of those who do not have a voice, then right here is where you start paying. And as Debbie Allen said, you will pay in sweat. But I tell you this, I've been a judge now for 5 years. I practiced for about 8 years, and I learned it all in sweat. So she was right. Fame right here is where you start paying.